Hey everyone, so today I'm excited to be reviewing a book I just finished reading called Jesus Revolution: How God Transformed an Unlikely Generation and How He Can Do It Again Today. When I think of the 60s and 70s, my brain immediately goes to hippies, the counterculture, the music, the drugs, and all the social stuff that was changing. But what I never connected to that era was Jesus. The book completely flipped my whole perspective. It shows how that whole turbulent time actually sparked this massive, unexpected Jesus movement. The author does a great job setting the scene. First, you get this really clear picture of the cozy 1950s post-World War II America with a classic nuclear family and everyone doing the same routine. But then it switches. You see the kids getting disillusioned, rebelling against that quote-unquote normal, and searching for meaning through sex, drugs, and rock and roll. This book follows three key people who God used to spark this Jesus revolution. First up is Pastor Chuck Smith. He's running this small church, like maybe 25 people, and it's struggling. But he takes a huge chance by actually trying to understand the youth of the era and invites this young hippie named Lonnie Frisbee into his life and his church. Lonnie, who had just found Jesus himself, was a super fiery, charismatic guy who looked like what many people think Jesus would actually look like. This unlikely partnership, the traditional pastor and the passionate, long-haired evangelist, sparked a brand new movement. They started sharing the gospel with the people right on the streets and getting people to dive deep into scripture. Then we meet Greg Lowery. We follow his story as a kid growing up in this really broken home. No dad, just totally lost and searching for purpose. Greg was immersed in the hippie culture, but he was longing for something real and something meaningful in his life. That's when he encountered Jesus. The book tracks his personal transformation as he and others, guided by Pastor Smith and Lonnie, actually start planning new churches. It's pretty amazing watching what God can do from this view. One thing I really liked about this book is how it just drops you right into the 60s and 70s. It's not just the personal stuff. It weaves in all the cultural touchstones. The popular TV shows, the rise of the Beatles and their own explorations, the crazy political stuff, the civil rights movements, and the Vietnam War. It shows how all these huge shifts converge, making a whole generation ask the big, deep questions about life, and how Jesus was revealed as the answer. Of course, as the Jesus Revolution gained momentum, the book covers the darker side of the hippie lifestyle and how it falls short with the tragic death of rock stars and friends and that sobering realization that drugs lead to total emptiness. Yet, in the middle of all the darkness, more and more former hippies were meeting Christ, causing this massive spiritual awakening. He got so big that Time magazine ran a pivotal cover story. Additionally, to Time magazine's cover story, we see more and more people started sharing the iconic quote-unquote one-way sign, referencing John 14:6, popping up everywhere. The one-way sign would be presented on shirts, buttons, car bumper stickers, and it would show across the nation. The book makes a really strong case that this movement is basically the foundation for much of the contemporary Christian music we listen to today. It wraps up with these super thought-provoking look at the past Jesus revolutions throughout history, drawing parallels to where we are today. The author suggests that our current world is ripe for another spiritual awakening and that people are just longing for some kind of objective truth and purpose. All right, in closing, this isn't my usual go-to genre of books, and maybe the writing isn't going to win any Pulitzer Prizes, but honestly, I'd still recommend this book to everyone, believers and non-believers as well. I thought it was an utterly groovy, and I came away with some knowledge of a really pivotal spiritual revival in American history. So that's my review. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you feel now is a good time for a new Jesus revolution? Or tell me what book you'd like me to dive into next. Until next time, be blessed, be a blessing, I be out.